Hello everybody and welcome to Lecture 8, the last lecture where we talk about a component of the computer science principles performance tasks. The only thing that's left from now is the next lecture, which is just a conclusion on how you should upload all the performance tasks and any sort of due dates. So today we're talking about uploading and putting your code. Now, what we went over last time, we talked a bit about the create task essays, and there were 4 essays altogether coming out to, I want to say, 750 words, with A being about just information about the program, what the video shows, B being about the development process, difficulties, and collaboration in your program, C, your algorithm, D, your abstraction. And the activity that I left you guys with was writing out your outlines for the essays and then actually drafting them. Now, this is going to be a relatively short lecture because all we're going to talk about is getting your code from where it is into your PDF. Now, your job is to copy and paste all of your program code. If you're not using Scratch and it's like just a text program, this should be pretty simple. All you need to do is just copy and then paste into something that can convert into a PDF. Now, before I continue with this, I should point out that most word processors, like if you're on Windows, Microsoft Word, if you're on Mac Pages, and most programs have the ability to export to a PDF. So just using one of those programs should be enough. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to download something extra necessarily to make it work into a PDF. Now, when you're pasting the program code, you also have to remember to mark with an oval the code with the algorithm that you talked about in SAC, and then with a rectangle the code with the abstraction that you talked about in SAD. Don't forget this because they will remove a lot of points if you do. Just remember, just draw, use one of the tools that they have within any of these processors. Just take the tool, draw an oval, draw a rectangle around any of the code that you need to, and you'll basically get that solved. And then another thing I want to point out, you have to include comments or acknowledgments for program code that has been written by someone else. So create a little text box or something, point to the code, or just draw something around the code. Don't draw a circle because remember, using an oval for something else. I recommend just draw an arrow and then write out saying this code has been created by someone else. Maybe write their name. It's not necessary, but you have to make sure you add that comment. And remember, final file needs to be a separate PDF. This is absolutely mandatory. Now, how to copy and paste your code. Again, I said if you're not using Scratch, all you need to do is just copy, Control-C, Command-C, depending on the computer you're on, copy and paste into the word processor and export it into a PDF, and make sure you add that circle and rectangle. If you're doing Scratch, however, because it's block code, it could be a little more complicated, but don't worry, it's not too complicated. All you need to do is take screenshots of all your code and then copy the pictures into a word processor and then finally export that to a PDF. And I'll show you a picture of my code in a second, but just so you guys know, for Mac, you're going to want to do Command-Shift-4. So just look at your keyboard. There's the Command button, then there's going to be the Shift button, and then 4. When you press all of those together in sequence, a little, your cursor will turn into this little, target thing, and if you just, click and then drag, you'll be able to select the region you want to take a screenshot of. So just take screenshots one by one of all the different code and then save it'll automatically save the screenshot once you let go onto your desktop with the name screenshot and then the date when you took it. So make sure to organize those out well. And then Windows, you can use the snipping tool, which should automatically be on most Windows computers. When you press snipping tool, just press new, do similarly, drag, and then it'll save it, and then it'll basically select it, and then you just need to save it. And just do that one by one, and then just take all those screenshots and then put them in sequence again into your word processor, add that oval, add that rectangle, and you'll be good to go. Now here's a page from my code. As you can see, I went a little more in depth with what I did. So as you know, for Scratch, or if you don't know, this is the time to know. For Scratch, everything is divided into sprites, which are just basically a fancy word for characters. And each sprite can have their own code in them, which is the code that you'll put for the sprite. So that check schedule button that you guys saw back in my create task video lecture, that create schedule button was actually a sprite called the scheduler. And so most of the code is within that scheduler button. And if you look through the algorithm here, I've taken a screenshot. This is actually only half the algorithm. It was really long. And yeah, I know if you're looking at the code, it looks very ineffective. It is very ineffective code. You could have probably used like an abstraction. See, you could have used an abstraction, and I could have used an abstraction. It would have been more effective in this case. But basically, I took this as algorithm part 2. I added that oval because it's part of the algorithm, and then I added the costumes next to it. This one's not really mandatory. You don't really need to add the costumes. I just added it so that people have like a better idea of what it's referencing when it says like change costume to this or that. And yeah. So yeah, pretty short lecture in comparison, but your activity, just screenshot and export your code, and then just make sure that when you export it to a PDF, it's coming out right, and don't forget that oval and rectangle. Next time, we'll be having our last lecture. I'm going to miss you guys. And it'll just be a quick conclusion about how to organize and then upload your performance task components. And it'll also mention all the due dates that you need to know. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.